guys all for participating. I am now going to pass it on off to our keynote speaker. So I would like to introduce Ms. Breezy Gutierrez. She is the director of the New Mexico PDC College and Career Readiness Bureau. And I'm also proud to say that she was a former MESA advisor for many years in Santa Rosa. So welcome to Ms. Breezy Gutierrez.
Good morning. Thank you, everyone. Like she said, my name is Breezy Gutierrez. I'm from a little town called Anton Chico, and I went to school in Santa Rosa, where I was a MESA student for 4 years, got a scholarship. And then when I came back to the school, I was the MESA advisor for 13 years. And so I really enjoyed MESA, but the other portion to that was I was not just the MESA advisor. I was the Business Professionals of America advisor. I was the math teacher. I was the science teacher. I was the health teacher. I was the PE teacher. I was the librarian for 1 year. And I have all of those certifications and degrees. In addition, I coached volleyball, basketball, and track. And that happens when you're in a rural area. And when you want to provide opportunities for your kids, that's what you do. You know, I was already getting ready to get a CDL so I could drive the bus. So that I didn't have to fight with transportation about taking my MESA kids to their competition. So I left the classroom then, became an assistant principal for a couple of years, and then applied at the New Mexico Public Education Department, where I have been there for 3 years. I started as an education administrator. I moved up to deputy director, and now I'm the director of the College and Career Readiness Bureau. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview of the College and Career Readiness Bureau and kind of the connections that are made. It's not just academics or career technical education. It's everything and the opportunities that we provide for our students and what they're exposed to. All right, so our public education department's vision is to educate all students, right? Educate all means all. So what we look at is what the mission is. Do we ensure that our students are healthy, secure in their identity, holistically and culturally prepared for a college career in life? That's pretty much, in a nutshell, what our mission and our vision is at the College and Career Readiness Bureau. So if I say CCRB, we're all about acronyms. So if you don't know an acronym, let me know, and I will explain what that acronym means. All right, so strategic plan. We're in the process of redoing our strategic plan, and basically, in a nutshell, what are we doing for successful completion of all high school students across the state? So my office is in charge of graduation requirements. We are in charge of anything that has to do with secondary education. So we oversee all CTSOs, which is Career Technical Student Organizations. We oversee graduation requirements. We oversee early college, high school. We oversee a variety of initiatives. And so just an overview of what we do, we administer funding for specific programs. And we carry out the law, which is one portion of what we do. But in addition, what we do is we provide professional development and technical assistance to help schools create that better high school experience for students. So we look at the U.S. Department of Education. So the U.S. Department of Education has this overlying concept called unlocking career success. And so Secretary Cardona, the U.S. Department of Education, he states that students can be successful if we raise the bar. And how do we raise the bar? We do that by providing 4 key components within the high school experience. And that's providing students with opportunities for work-based learning, teaching them the relevance and the applicability of why they are in school and why they are learning the things that they learn. Career navigation, our next step plan, our counseling from our counselors, your registrars registering students, not just putting them in classes because that's somewhere to put them, but actually listening to the students and state, this is what I want to do, this is what I'm passionate about, this is the pathway that I want to take. Industry sought credentials. That's the main concept of my office with career technical education is, are our students leaving high school, college, and or career ready? They don't have to go to college to be successful, but we do emphasize that you may have to go to college to get a credential. You may have to go to a post-secondary institution in order to get that certification for something that is going to provide a quality, high wage, high skill career for you to be able to support yourself and the family. And then dual credit, dual enrollment, how we are exposing our students to the dual credit process and what supports we are providing for them. Many times we put students in dual credit and then we're like, you should have been able to handle it. Instead of saying, I see you're struggling, here are our safety supports, here are our safety nets, here is everything to help you be successful. So if we look at, it's not career technical education anymore. The term used to be vocational. We're trying to change that language to what does career connected learning look like? Because that's what, basically the overall concept is, when a student leaves high school, what are they doing? Career-wise, how are they entering the workforce and what contributions are they giving to society? So all of these programs at a glance, so if we think about career technical education, that's just the main concept, career-connected learning, but these are all the things that we do. Work-based learning, student advisement, school counselor support, international baccalaureate, dual credit courses, innovation zone, graduation requirement, early college, high school, dual credit, careers to communities, CTSOs and advanced placement. So we have a program, Careers to Communities. When we think about math, we have a program called Math Pathways to Careers, which embeds and makes the math relevant and applicable for students to understand why they have to learn concepts. So every lesson is aligned with some sort of career. We also have a diagnostic test in there that creates a quantile assessment score for students, and it aligns them to the career and what math is needed in order to, continue on that career pathway. So career technical education provides our students with the technical skills, knowledge. It isn't academic or CTE. It's what is the connection? Our career technical education students, when we pull the data, we have to report to OCTE, which is the Office of Career Technical Education, Career Technical and Adult Education at the U.S. Department of Ed, as to how many of these students were proficient in math, how many of them were proficient in English, how many of them were proficient in science, how many of them graduated within 4, 5, or 6 years, how many of them earned an industry credential, and how many of them moved on to either post-secondary or to the workforce. The other thing we measure is how much dual credit did these students participate in or complete, and what work-based learning experiences they participated in and completed when they were in school. We also have one more, which is called the completer status. So how many of those students completed a 3-course sequence within high school and then ended up with an industry credential that they moved on with? So for example, if a student took 3 courses of welding, and not just the elective welding course, it's a prescribed course that's highly qualified, and then they get that AWS certification and they move on, they're considered a completer and they're ready to go out into the workforce and work. So those are the types of programming that we are really pushing for to assist those students. All students, not just, back then it used to be you're on the vocational track, you're on the academic track. It's not like that anymore. Everybody needs to have that opportunity, right? So we support high-quality CTE programs of study with funding. And so we administer about $34 million. So we have a $60 million budget in my office for us to carry out. We have two $10 million grants. One, the Disability Innovation Fund grant that we just received last year, which is really focusing on what we are doing to assist students with disabilities. The other $10 million is the Pathways to Careers math curriculum that we are assisting with our math proficiency levels at the New Mexico Public Education Department. And then $40 million is what is going to career technical education programs, Innovation Zone, and our career technical student organizations. So federal funding is a little bit more, it's flexible this year because we just submitted our Perkins State Plan and made it a little more flexible, but there are still requirements with the federal Perkins funding. In order to utilize your Perkins funding, you have to be carrying out a high-quality CTE program of study that is aligned to your labor market needs. So in the state of New Mexico, we have 3 state priorities that schools can spend their money on if they are going to carry out these programs. Education and training, because we really need more teachers out there. Business, because business is one of those concepts that overarches into every other cluster. And the last one is computer science / IT. Information technology is another one that, crosses all clusters. Then what schools and districts and areas do, regions do, is they get together every 2 years and they sit down and they say, what does our labor market tell us? What jobs do we need to fill? And then they select a regional priority. And then schools say, well, the regional priority or the state priority really doesn't fit my need in my community. So here's what my labor market information tells me, here's what my openings in my town tell me, and so we're gonna provide a program at our school in order to help fill those needs within the community. So our state funding, it's a 7-year pilot. This is a little bit more flexible. So it's called Next Gen funding, and it also focuses on those high quality programs of study. But in addition, we can support and fund other things, such as career technical student organizations, help to pay stipends for advisors and so forth, because Perkins is a little bit more, they're not lenient with that. It has to be an affiliation and there's some other laws, right? So we have to follow some dude called Edgar, right? It's a book, right? So we gotta follow Edgar and we gotta follow Perkins 5 guidelines. So our state funding is a little bit more flexible because 50% of that funding could go to fund, sometimes that school has a great culinary program, but it's not really one of the priorities, but they're doing well, students do well in it, and they go out and they do great things. So that's the flexibility that we have with that. So this is our state plan, and so this is the flexibility that we've allowed. In the past, we used to have so I oversee post-secondary career technical education programs too as well. So what was happening was we were giving 50% of our funding to secondary and 50% to post-secondary. But we need to hook those students earlier. And so that is going to help us. The split is going to eventually be 65-35, where secondary is going to get 65% of the funding and post-secondary will get 35% of the funding. And so that is to get these kids started at an earlier age so that they do continue in post-secondary programs. The other thing that we had too was Perkins is a formula calculated funding, and so a school would only get like $320 and they say, I'm not doing all this work and an application for $320. Because what Perkins funding is, a supplement to what you should already be, or administrators or school districts should already be putting into classrooms in order to educate students. So it's a supplement. So what we did before was we created consortiums. So we had a bunch of schools and a university and a consortium, and they were all concentrating on the same program. They all put their money together and they were able to spend that. But some schools were like, I'm not doing IT, I'm contributing to this, but this is the program that the region says we have to do. So what we did was we reallocated the funding so that those schools get a minimum of $15,000, so that at least helps a little bit better than $320. So we adjusted our performance targets to House Bill 171. And so if you're not aware, House Bill 171 and the graduation change requirements that are going to happen next year with our 8th graders that will be coming in as 9th graders, there is some significant changes in there that will affect what we report to the federal government. So those are the requirements. These are the regions. So our regions are split. You have a regional coach in these specific regions. And then if you get on the website, you can see the specific programs that were chosen through that comprehensive local needs assessment process. That's what CLNA stands for. And so we have CTE programs of study. There are 16 right now. And STEM is one of those career clusters. But the nation got together and said, hey, these career clusters have been around for over 20 years and we need to start moving with the times. So what they did was they brought together people from around the nation to redo the career clusters. And so programs of study are based on these career clusters. STEM was a career cluster, but what they realized was STEM is not a cluster. It's something that's everywhere, right? So it's processes and programs and all of these other things. It's not just a cluster by itself. So they have moved it to creating 14 clusters and then combining certain clusters together. So in October, I will be meeting with Advanced CTE, the nation will, all CTE directors, to get the feedback from the new Advancing the Framework clusters, and we're going to be starting to review the programs of study and see if they are still relevant, they still meet the needs of our industry partners in order to make sure that students are going out prepared to the workforce. So that includes you all too, because our programs of study, many classes have a lot of math content in there, they have science content, and they can be taught by licensed science and math teachers, in addition to some English programs of study too as well, where there's English courses embedded in there. So an approvable program of study, like I said, we're trying to push it down into middle school. Right now what we have is middle school exploration, but we are trying to hook those students a little bit earlier so that they make that choice by the time they're in high school, to create some sort of at least a 2-course pathway, and sticking to it and saying, okay, I'm learning from this. The new graduation requirements require that students have a 2-course pathway. It doesn't necessarily have to be a career technical education, but they can choose. It could be military, they do ROTC for 2 years, they do art for 2 years, they do band for 2 years, they do Spanish for 2 years, they do a CTE program of study for 2 years. And so the requirement is that career technical education has to be offered though. So CTE works, if we look at our graduation rates for just our general students versus our CTE concentrators, we see that career technical education works. These students are more engaged in the hands-on applicability of what they are learning and what they are doing and understanding that. So my office doesn't just oversee the graduation rates of career technical education, we oversee the graduation rates of all students. And so just yesterday we were sitting down and thinking about what is going to be our goal for 4 years as to what we are going to do to help improve those graduation rates for students. We also have to break down demographically those underrepresented populations, because basically that's what Perkins is really focused on. What are you doing to assist those students that need those intensive supports? So recently, we established a CTE statewide advisory board, which is composed of 16 industry partners that represent all career clusters. So we have someone there from architecture, we have someone there from health science, we have someone there from law enforcement. So we are trying to bridge and close the opportunity gap and really understand what that pipeline is from education to industry. You know, I always hear all the time, you know, education is here, industry is this far here. We're never gonna catch up. And I'm like, we may never catch up, but we can try to get as close as we can, right? So that's what we're gonna try to do. And so we have a CTE leadership workshop that we put on every year to engage schools as to what career technical education is, what the requirements are for the application, and so forth. So the career and technical student organizations that we oversee here are organizations that are aligned to all programs of study. Specific ones, so like Business Professionals of America, that would be under the business cluster, the marketing cluster, and the information technology cluster. They even have competitions that are in the health science area, so they fall under the health science cluster. Skills, you would say, they fall under every single cluster, and they've got some sort of competition that does relate to some sort of program of study. Educators Rising, mostly focused on education and training, trying to train those people that want to be teachers at an early age. Technology Student Association, TSA, they're the information technology, they're the coding. BPA does have coding too, but there's a CTSO for everyone and whatever interest that you have. And so as a MES advisor and a BPA advisor and as a volleyball coach, I would like force my kids, I'd be like, you're gonna be a BPA, fill out this paperwork, take it to your parents, because you're gonna earn things, because, you know, I'd make my volleyball players do service learning. We'd go out to the community and we'd do service learning projects. I'm like, you can count that for MESA and you can count that for BPA. So like I'm gonna create these opportunities so that you understand like the leadership aspect, you understand the service learning aspect, and you understand the academic competitive aspect. So contacts for CTE, every region has an assigned coach. I'll share this with you so that you can have all the QR codes, but we have this pilot going on which is called Innovation Zone. And so what we are doing right now for the last 3 years, we've had specific schools apply for innovation zones because they want to reimagine what the high school experience looks like for students. And so the requirements of you to be an innovation zone is that you need to have a plan to show how you are going to incorporate career technical education, capstones in the community, work-based learning, and social emotional learning. Social emotional learning isn't a curriculum. It's what you are doing with kids in order to move them forward. So the innovation zone is based on, this is another graduation requirement, is all high schools will have to have a graduate profile done. Innovation zones takes the graduate profile and they say, what are you doing with your graduate profile to support that when these students leave this school, they are meeting that expectation of what you have created with your graduate profile. So the graduate profiles, when I leave this school, these are the skills I'm taking out into my community, into my world, into my workforce. So transforming what that high school experience looks like, what we're finding out is we're finding out great things that that schools are doing with Innovation Zone. There's a school that has their seniors all do a capstone project to solve some issue within their community, and then they have to present it to their tribal council. All students have to go through this process, and so that's a great way for them to show the skills that they have learned. So the Innovation Zone funding, these are the contacts for that. Work-based learning. We have multiple opportunities for work-based learning. We have what is known as near-peer tutoring. So schools can apply for near-peer tutoring, where they have high school students that go down to the middle school and they assist those students with high-dosage tutoring in order to help increase proficiencies in specific subjects. We have summer internships. We call it the Summer Enrichment Internship Program. So we have partnered with tribes and counties, and we have the tribes and counties hire the students from the school to do summer program. The counties place the students in businesses all across their communities where there is need, and they do an internship program for the summer. And then Innovation Zone, I'll tell you that the majority of Innovation Zones that has applied for funding, they have all created work-based learning opportunities for their students. You know, I got a story the other day from one of the schools saying, hey, are you gonna have money for this? And I'm like, I don't know. Every year, the legislature tells me how much money I have, and then I can allocate it. He said, because, you know, I have a student who is paying the rent for his whole family by working with this work-based learning, and if he doesn't get this, he's gonna quit school. So it's keeping him in school. So these are the type of things that we are trying to assist. Like, how is Innovation Zone helping with your attendance rate, your graduation rate, and the relevance of students earning some sort of credential before they leave? So the Be Pro, Be Proud bus, this is great if you haven't heard of it. Get your administrator to schedule this to go to your school, and in it is a whole bunch of interactive toys that can help create that career exploration and hook those students. It's got a phlebotomy arm where you can draw blood. It's got goggles for you as an HVAC plumber to do some work. It's got a simulator where you sit down and you do your CDL driver, and it's got all the, you know, the gears and everything. And then it's got a backhoe and a dump truck simulator on there too as well. So it's a great opportunity for you to explore those. So coming soon, we are working on a work-based learning toolkit, framework and guidance as to what that looks like in our state. Work-based learning can start in middle school with career exploration or job shadowing. It can move up certain levels. When they get to high school, they get maybe a paid internship or they get credit for their internship. One of the requirements, graduation requirements, which is it's kind of hard to do this, but in the graduation requirements, the bill has allowed students to earn math, science, or English language arts credit for engaging in a work-based learning experience. And that's making my job a little tough because we have to figure out how does that work-based learning experience meet all those performance standards that a student needs to know, right? That they need to be Algebra 1 proficient. Know that too, Algebra 2 has to be offered, but it is not going to be a requirement anymore. So advanced placement, we pay for advanced placement for those students. This is a safe way for students to earn college credit. I'm not against dual credit, but this is another opportunity. Dual credit's a little bit different because if a student doesn't pass, that's on their record, versus advanced placement, that doesn't go onto the college transcript. So advanced placement is a safer way for students to learn the college experience and gain credit if they score a 3 or better on their test. We pay for the PSAT and SQT for all 10th graders, and so that's a great opportunity for students to be exposed to those scholarships that are offered by Nationwide from a result of their test score. So we pay for and we support the summer institutes, the AP workshops and so forth. So if you want to get AP trained, we have those workshops available. So the PSAT and MSQT, fall exam is free. This allows those 11th graders to qualify for that National Merit Scholarship too as well, okay? If your students take the PSAT at any time, they get into this platform called Big Future, and it's a great tool for them to start looking at colleges and so forth. And last year, a student from Tularosa did everything that they kept sending her way. She signed up for colleges, she ranked her 3 top colleges, she did online webinars and so forth. And she was granted, they gave her a scholarship. International Baccalaureate is one of those other things that we pay for in our office. And so we pay for the students that earn or take these exams with International Baccalaureate. Dual credit, talked about that earlier. Available for all high school students. So the graduation requirements, whenever you reach out about a graduation requirement, or can you teach this course, or hey, how come you don't have this course on the STARS/NOVA list, it's us. We're the ones that review those. You say, you know, your school says, hey, can this student get credit for science by taking this class? And then we go through the whole process of the waiver and so forth, and the requirements that you need in order to submit for that. So that's where this stuff comes from my office. So what are the changes in rules, statute, the required coursework? You want to submit a new program of study, it comes to us for review. So the new graduation requirement will be available, manual will be available in December. Careers to communities, this is what I talked about earlier with our Pathways to Careers math curriculum. This curriculum is free to all New Mexican students. The developer is selling it in other states, but he can't sell it to us because we created it with our funds. So this is, if you haven't signed up for this account, sign up for it. Look at the, we've got 8th grade pre-algebra, 9th grade algebra, 10th grade geometry, and then 11th grade algebra 2. In addition, it has career exploration lessons, it's got the diagnostic tool in it, and then it has other like financial literacy stuff in there too as well. And so this is what it looks like. You know, you can search for a career, like you say firefighters, and it'll pull up all the lessons that have the math that is involved in that specific career. So here's just a bunch of different lessons, what it looks like, the career exploration lessons, and again, free. All of these stories are based on people from New Mexico and what they did in order to get to their career. So if you go to our website, you'll see our career cluster guide with all these programs of study on there and how they align and where they align in the specific cluster. And so the idea is that everybody in the school is working together to understand what math do we need for this program of study, what science do we need, what English language arts skills, and so forth. So if you want copies of the career cluster guide, they're not available yet, but you can get the online version here and print out what you want. And so this is an example of the labor market information. All the early college high schools that we have, if you want to become an early college high school, you go through an application process. And then we have support communities of practice for our school counselors in order to help with the advisement of that. So I'm just gonna move on to the upcoming projects. So we are creating a resource hub. We are developing those work-based learning standards. We're developing middle school CTE, graduate profile support, a pre-apprenticeship pathway, revisions of the standards, and then the graduation requirements guidance. So that's all I have for you. It would take all day for me to go over everything we do in our office, but if you need anything, please reach out to me, my office. We have a coach in every region to help you with any questions that you have. So I greatly appreciate everything that you are doing for kids, because that, at the end of the day, is what we are trying to do, right? We are trying to educate these kids. We are trying to get them those opportunities and to close the opportunity gap that others have that others don't. So I appreciate all your hard work and everything that you do. And so again, if you need me, please reach out. Have a good day.